see students in the crowd as well as faculty. So let's see how we will try to engage both of you at the same time. I bring greetings from Sri Devaraja's Academy of Higher Education and Research, Kolar, Karnataka. So I thought let me start off with the teachers basically. If you could tell me the course which you engage students in, and one attribute of yours that contributes in being an effective teacher. I'm sure each one of us are effective in our own ways. So what is that special strength that you think makes you an effective teacher? So I will not pass the mic to everybody. So if you could choose to volunteer and tell, that would be good. So can I have a few? It's a cognition. She said cognition, none. So basically what it is that you have in your head. You all know Vivekananda said model man is all about amalgamation of head, heart and what? Head, heart and hands, isn't it? So you all give concept. You all seem to be having pretty high impetus on the head component. Sir?
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Sujit Kumar and I teach organic chemistry and medicinal chemistry to faculty and B.Com students. I correlate whatever I teach in class with the demand in pharmaceutical field and how my teaching, the knowledge which I transfer can help in fulfilling that demand or that lacuna in the pharma industry.
So basically knowledge sharing by narrating, by aligning what you teach with what the student would do when he goes on field, isn't it? So normally, when you are an adult, for you, if I ask you to sit in this class, you will ask me, what's in it for me? What do I get? You're not like school children where 8 to 9 English, 9 to 10 maths, blindly you go, learn what the teacher says. Not anymore. So faculty know very well that it's not that anymore. The student sitting there looks at you with broadening eyes. Why am I listening to this class of yours? What is it at the end of it that I can relate to when I go? So what's in it for me is something that you have to answer, and that's why giving knowledge is important, by trying to relate real life incidents or how will this knowledge help when they set out to field is all the more important. So yes, it contributes to be an effective teacher. Each one of us, I feel, is an effective teacher. Identifying the strength and identifying those strengths others have and trying to incorporate makes the better teacher. So preview, like what is it that I'll be talking about in the next few minutes is, I'll try to tell what is active teaching learning method. When I say active teaching learning method, what is active and passive? Passive is those days when teacher was a sage on the stage, you all know, right? But now it's not anymore. So I have to pass on the mic. So that is trying to make him a partner in the learning process. Student engagement techniques. Is it enough if I just engage you with me? No, not enough at all. I have to engage faculty. As faculty, we have to ensure that student is engaged not only with the teacher but with the content. So it's not enough if I and you are engaged. What is more important? You have to be engaged with the content. So student engagement technique, interactive methods of teaching, so that you'll be constantly woken up from slumber. Millennial learners, they're not the ones who went to bed at 9 o'clock. We were good children. We went at 9 and the lights used to be switched off. And now lights turn on at 9. So early morning when the student comes to class, he's like coming out straight from bed, dashing and knocking at your door. You are at 9 o'clock and he comes at 9:10. So you have to constantly ensure that he's engaged with the class. So there has to be a lot of relevant interaction. Lastly, application of knowledge of educational methods in online learning. So student engagement is not enough if I just limit myself to the classroom. So once the student goes out, as teachers, I have to ensure that I'm connected to them. How do I do it? Virtually. So I'm there everywhere. Teacher is omnipotent. That's what mythology said, right? So teacher is there everywhere. Literally teacher is everywhere. We are hovering around you. We send assignments on WhatsApp. We say, get on to the Google Classroom. We check what's happening. I check your LMS, I check my learning management system. I see how many times you have accessed it, how long were you in it, everything. We are like constantly monitoring your activity. So it's not engagement. So engaging the students beyond classroom is something that as teachers we have learned to incorporate, and that we do by online methods. So for this, as teachers, because my core audience here is teachers and that's why I'm here for, I need to understand what are these aided learning principles. So there has been a shift, isn't it? These kids who come to you have come after they turned 18. So until then they were used to one technique. And now I'm engaging these so-called kids who consider themselves as adults. So I have to understand these adult learning principles and I have to create an atmosphere. The onus is on me. I have to create an atmosphere for them to learn, isn't it? So these adult learning principles is something that as a teacher I need to first master. So for this, I need to understand the differences between andragogy and pedagogy. What's pedagogy?
Method.
How did you learn your verses, the shlokas or whatever it is? I told and you repeated. So some of the shlokas that I learned or chants that we learned or whatever nursery rhymes that you learned, even now you remember, isn't it? By rote. So pedagogy was almost like that. I solved the problem, you copied what I wrote on blackboard. I dictated notes and I ensured that whatever answer I see was from the notes that I dictated. That was pedagogy. Whereas andragogy is, I engage this class, I give them some assignments, I ensure that they go and apply what they learned onto this activity. So andragogy is all about just facilitating learning, ensuring that they apply what is learned to what they have to do. So most of the things that you can see here is, in andragogy, student is, as your principal was telling, it is student-centered. So basically everything hovers around the student. Whereas pedagogy was teacher-centered. So, teacher will say, this is my class, this is what I teach, this is what you have to learn. In andragogy, student, this is what is in the curriculum, this is what I have to teach the student, this is what he will do once he steps out. So it is teacher-centered, student-centered. In andragogy, what you see that how much ever well prepared you go to the class, you would have taken, we take hours together to prepare for the class. Faculty, do you agree with me? Yes. Students, do you agree? No. Because you think, after what did you do throughout your 5 years? So I come prepared, and here you see students are, unless they're intrinsically motivated, nothing gets transferred from my brain to your brain, isn't it? Just passes on from my notes to your notes, right? So what we have to see is the students have to be internally motivated. That's a big question mark. When does the student get internally motivated? When do you think student gets internally motivated? That's the only thing in adult principles. In andragogy, the only thing that works is students' intrinsic motivation. So how do you think students get internally motivated?
Realization.
Yeah, how do you ensure they have this self-realization, like Buddha got it? Someday, that they get only 2 days prior to the exams. They see that, oh my God, 20 marks from this chapter and I don't even know what the teacher taught. So, internally motivated, that's the reason why we see this continuous assessments or what was continuous learnings help us on and off to ensure that learning is happening. They like to be respected. Do you think they like if I say, yes, you stand up and tell me what's, they will never like it, right? So they want that respect. No, yes, you anymore. You with respect there. Not at all. So I can't even say, why are you dozing? I can only respectfully say, please use the benches backwards and don't disturb me. I can only tell that. So they like to be respected. Whereas pedagogy, I won't talk much about pedagogy because that's not something that we're trying to have a shift, a paradigm shift from pedagogy to andragogy. So as teachers, we have to concentrate and understand that we are dealing with adult learners. So first thing is, get them to be motivated on their own, respect them, and they have to understand what is valuable in what you teach. So that's the reason I start off with, okay, today, 45 minutes if you sit through the class, this is what you'll get from me. So you can decide to shut off or turn on. So you'll say at the end of this class, that's the reason we come up with this objectives at the beginning of the class. Faculty, you all will understand that. That's why I say, at the end of the class, the student will be able to blah, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. So, that is it is. And readiness to learn is linked to the need. So unless what he learns, like say pharmaceutical research and study. So suppose they are going as researchers and suppose their interviewer later on will consider their research project. I say later on in interviews, if you do 2 or 3 projects that will help, then maybe they'll sit through my class of research methodology. So you'll have to link the whatever is taught to the need. So then maybe they'll get intrinsically motivated. So there are 2 approaches. There are 2 approaches when I say teachers and when I talk about learning principles. One is behaviorist approach, which most of us were like used to, where it's a teacher-centered passive approach. I come prepared, 40 minutes, I take a beautiful class, the slides are fantastic, and the content is out of the world, you will not find it anywhere. So it's a teacher behaviorist approach, and I think I know all, and I'm passing on the information to you. Constructivist approach is learner-centered. I might not have the best of the content. I might only tell you, okay, if this is what is the problem, maybe you have to go and refer this, and maybe you'll have to synthesize information like this, and then come at an answer. So as faculty, it's very difficult for us to go back those 2 steps and then allow them to do it. Very difficult. I myself, though I take so many classes in tutorials, I see that I jump and give them the answers. I put up a case, and then I give them 5 minutes, and then I'm so eager to come out with the right answer. So that learner-centered active learning approach is something that you have to constantly practice. To go back 2 steps, allow them to do this deliberation, and then be there and allow learning to happen. So when I ask someone, okay, when I ask somebody, I can ask students or even teachers. You have attended many seminars, isn't it? Teachers, you have attended many conferences, many workshops. Now as a part of NAAC, you have to show how many continuous, what is this, medical education or dental education, CPDs, continuous professional development that you attend. Students attend a lot of classes. If I ask, tell me one unsuccessful learning experience. What do you mean by unsuccessful learning experience? You attended with some objective in mind. You paid 500 rupees, attended that particular workshop, but you thought that 500 rupees was a waste. So if you think about it, if all of you can think of one such experience which was unsuccessful, and if you can think of why was that experience unsuccessful, later on I can talk to you about it. Take 30 seconds time. Think of, in the recent past, one unsuccessful learning experience that you had, and what might have been the reason for that unsuccessful experience. Take a few minutes. Okay, students, okay, tell us like why you don't attend the class. Then they said, yeah, that particular class, we are not engaged enough. So this was the commonest growth that students had. That is, them being not engaged enough. I'm talking about this because this brings in all things that I want to talk about in the next few minutes. Active learning, that's how students have to be involved. Engagement, what are those techniques to? They want active learning, but they won't stand up and ask questions and answer. They want it, but they want you to pull them out, create an ambience, create an atmosphere for them to be active. So the onus is on the teacher. So student will not come prepared. We put up learning outcomes, we put up objectives, we put up the content. They wouldn't even have seen the notice board. So why active learning? What studies have shown, educational research has shown that whenever there has been active learning, the retention of information has been much more than passive learning. Like sir was telling about relating experiences, isn't it? So if I ask a student to stand up and then both of us sit and draw a flow chart or a concept map, the student understands and learns better. So retention of information is supposed to be better with active learning, and students are prepared for self-directed learning. So the paradigm, I just thought I will put it up for you to read. One of you can read out from the table. There's nothing. So can you read out? I would like to say there's a shifting paradigm from teacher-centered to learner-centered approach. So teacher and learner-centered, if you can tell.
Yeah, teaching, telling the students what they need to know.
That's the teaching paradigm.
Learning is engaging the students in learning how to learn. Emphasis on learning what they need to know.
So, do you see the difference here? Telling students what you need to know this will be a long, you need to know this, that's teacher centered. Whereas in learning, what do I say? This is the way you have to learn. This is how you have to learn. How to learn is what I'm concentrating on. Isn't it? As teachers, It's very easy to give facts, but nowadays don't you think facts are given even by, you just at the click of a mouse on your mobile, you have all facts, isn't it? So as a teacher, I have to be more involved in how to learn. How will you remember this concept? So maybe I teach them a few techniques of remembering. So how to learn? Whereas discovery learning is a whole new ball game. We have in competency-based education in medical program, this has come up from 2019, called self-directed learning. SDL is compulsory, where they do this discovery learning. So students seek and discover new knowledge. We teach them the basics, they go and learn about the higher end stuff. How many teachers have analyzed learning styles at the beginning of the class? How many of you have this practice of recording the learning styles of students? Do you think it's important? Have you known that some students say they are just sitting, some other friend is reading out the chapter for them. Or else nowadays you have these videos, the videos run and they listen. Whereas some students have to see charts, diagrams. Some students have to perform with their own, they have to write notes, they have to read and write. So there are various learning styles. Whereas teachers, I only do one way that I know, isn't it? Suppose I know to make PPTs, I do only PPTs. Suppose I have a good memory, I'll just rattle it out, isn't it? So my learning style, my teaching style is different from the learning style. So as teachers, we need to concentrate on learning style of students to engage in active learning. So key to getting students actively involved in learning lies in understanding their learning style. Look, you can sit and listen. Learning style preferences which impact students' performance. This is all educational research based evidence. Okay. So these are the learnings. Have you gone through this? Do you know what this is? You know, right? The VAR questionnaire. Visual learners, auditory learners, read-write learners, kinesthetic learners. That's why students like practice. We have been doing this for the last 20 years. I can see a shift in my students from visual learners to auditory learners, and now we see more of kinesthetic learners. So we are not multimodal. It can't be purely auditory, but this is the dominantly chosen learning style. So what's the advantage? Why as a teacher I need to understand the learning style? Why do you think as a teacher I have to know the learning style of my students? This is what I teach and this is what I paid for. Why can't I say that? Exactly. So my teaching should have a lot of things. I have to have some activities in between to distribute and say, okay, solve this crossword, solve this puzzle, take your mobile, answer this particular question. So draw on a blackboard, show a PowerPoint, show some graphs, put up a paper cutting, distribute something. So my teaching will contain a lot of activities that caters to all the students. Okay? So Gibbs was one famous, what can I say, educational researcher, and this is something that I like about what he has stated. It's not enough just to do, and neither is it enough just to think. Nor is it enough simply to do and think. Learning from experience must involve linking the doing and the thinking. So it's not enough just if I encourage them to think or encourage them to do. What's more important is it should involve the linking of doing and thinking. The alignment. If as a teacher, if we are successful in making a student align with what he will learn to what he will do later, I think we are successful. Don't worry about those marks that they get at the end of the class. The chapter completion test may be less, but later on they'll come back and tell you, when I was approaching this particular problem, I remembered what you taught in class. So I'm telling it from my experience. So that is what you have to make the students understand. This is theoretical. If you have attended a educational research workshop and if you don't know Kolb, people will say, why did you even attend at all? So that's the reason I put up this slide. Okay? This is Kolb's. How many of you have heard Kolb's experiential learning theory? You have heard. So this is one theory that works everywhere. Experiential learning. So knowledge is, you create knowledge. So it's not just transfer of what I know to what you know. I will tell something, okay? I will tell you an extract. And I'll put up some information. You will synthesize what you understood by it and you will create knowledge. That's what experiential learning is all about. I'll put up a video clip, for example, okay? And then you'll synthesize what is it maybe I try to, communicate through that. It can be breaking bad news, or it can be how to talk to a caregiver, something like that. So points to remember. So until now, in these 10 to 15 minutes that I've engaged, these are the things that I've tried to cover. Active learning has an important role. It improves the quality of learning in students. But it involves more than just doing things. It involves aligning what they do to what they think. I also tried to tell you that learning style preferences are important for teachers to know. The students have different learning styles. And Kolb's learning style cycle provides a framework for you to design your learning activities. So I'll ask you I'll make a few points, okay? If you have done it, show me thumbs up. If you have not, if you will try to do it, show thumbs down, okay? I'll start. I lectured during the entire class period. Teachers, only teachers. Yes. So, I have done it, but preferably maybe I'll tell you later. I showed a film or a video during the entire class period. It was so cool. All of us will watch the movie together.
Maybe entire, but sometimes.
Okay. I give a short quiz to check student comprehension of material. I have students complete a self-assessment activity. Like what is it that they believe? Like I want to know not about the subject. I want to know what is it that they want, what is it that they believe, what is their value. Yes? Good. I had students engage in a brainstorming activity. This bus sessions. Suddenly we come out with something and then say, this particular formula or whatever I'm calculating emerged from this resource, but this author says this is how it should be done, and allow them to think about it. So, do I engage in such brainstorming sessions in between? Very rarely, as teachers, I want a silent class. Very rarely, I create noise in the class, right? Not me, most of the teachers. I lectured with at least 15 minutes of time devoted to class discussion, interaction between student with occasional questions and remarks by teacher. Very good. I had students complete a problem-solving game. No? Okay, no games. Games to be played only in the ground, not in the class. Okay, you will think differently after Lokesh will talk to you in the afternoon. I assigned individual student presentations. I say, okay, you do this, you all together do this. Yes. I took the class on a field trip. I'm tired managing all the class. Do you think I'll take you to the field trip and engage? No. Huh? No one. Okay. I assigned a project to the students. Yes. I lectured with at least 15 minutes of time devoted to asking questions designed to check student understanding. 15 minutes. 5-10 minutes. I made a class discussion focused on a stimulus. Like for example, I put up a cartoon or I put up recent today's news of something that came up in regarding pharmaceuticals or something about informed consent or whatever it is. And then I led the class discussion means I didn't allow them to talk among themselves. I asked them leading questions. Yes, very good. I led a role-playing activity. No. Okay. Right. So, when I talk about these things, those things that I showed in the last 3 slides are all about engaging students, isn't it? So, just because I have a 40-minute class doesn't mean I have to talk for the entire 40 minutes. I can have only 20 minutes of talk and the remaining 25 minutes can be assigned to all those things that I put up. Showing cartoons, showing some stimuli, and then allowing discussions. That is why I say teacher-led discussion. The discussion should be, steered towards productive outcomes. That's a tough task. Always you see students try to go the theta way. You try to bring them here, they try to pull you there. Again bring them back, pull them out, you lose time there. So don't plan too many activities. Of the 25 minutes you assign, 10 minutes you might have really productive work going on. So the involvement of the minds of all learners with what is to be learned is something that happens during those activities that I put up in the last few slides. So now let us see, how do I design those activities? How do you think you all design such activities? How do you select a movie or how do you select a cartoon? Just because today's class is on, say, Etropin or whatever it is, I need to bring specific data for specific newspaper article or specific cartoon or specific movie for that, right? So that takes time. So teacher has to be prepared. Planning his learning activities doesn't come easy. And it has to be challenging. It can't be very easy. You can't give them something which quickly, within few seconds, all of them will come out of it. It has to be challenging. Remember, constructing a challenging MCQ, for example, is not easy at all. So similarly, constructing a topic, a challenging topic for discussion is definitely not easy. So as teachers, whenever we have free time, all we can do is sit and create one activity per week. That's good enough. And you can't repeat it because the challenge is lost. Imagine you do it this time. Do you think you can repeat that? The moment you start, there is no answer. So time and again, you have to reinvent yourself. Next time they say, oh, that teacher, that's the challenge, so that's that. So this student-led peer learning is very important. In the hostels, information gets transferred more easily than classrooms. So teachers, to be promoting student learning, have to be creative and thinking outside the box. For this, technology comes to your aid. To think out of the box and to be creative, technology helps. In the next few sessions, we will tell you how you can use technology to do this out of box thinking and getting students involved. So, when I say new generation learners, sir, the chief guest was talking about generation X, generation Y, generation Z, millennial learners, all that, right? So, do you think we need to engage them? Yes. No more passive learning. Why do you think so? Why do you think so? Because all of them have that, right? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What are the possible benefits for engaging students in learning? What is the benefit that you get as a teacher? Satisfaction? Is your performance appraisal report linked to student outcomes?
Satisfaction is sweetness.
Satisfaction is again a very subjective component. Maybe sometimes teacher just goes and does a job and she feels satisfied. I did my job. I don't care whether the student is like, it's his problem. Many times student doesn't know, many times teachers do it. Isn't it? I did my job. I can't help it if he sleeps through the class. So, benefit of engaging students is like, at the end of the day, we all have this course outcomes, POs and all that, SOPOs put up, right? So the CO, PO, PO, POs, if they're all met, then that means we have engaged and accomplished and driven students to a point where they are engaged learners. So, all along, like we had a few group activities, I'll do it later because now the students are there. After the 3 sessions, maybe we'll go to this. So we have a lot of techniques wherein we will try to do this problem solving and other activities through working in teams. Quickly, I will rush you through. I have many scenarios, but because we don't have group formation here, I might just 1 or 2 scenarios I will take up. So, can you see that? In a high density lecture where too many facts and information was given, the last part was retained. The students were able to recall only the last part of lecture. Let's say a 45 minutes lecture class. What Russell found out was, only the last 10 minutes what he taught was retained by the students. So what do these results imply to you when you plan the content material for your class? Got it? A teacher found out that only what he taught in the last 10 minutes was retained by the students. So as a teacher, what does it tell you?
So
Teachers-
the important one, it should be kept in the last one.
Last 10 minutes. Okay. So first 15 minutes. Yes. Not a bad idea. Anybody else? Summarizing. Very good. Yes. So sort of reinforcing what you taught. Anybody else?
Maybe they're happy that another 5
Class
minutes class is
getting
getting
over.
over.
So they remember better. So when you're happy, you remember better. So keep them happy. So you keep on telling them, in 5 minutes the class will be done. 5 minutes class will be done. And continue. So if you give too much information in a 1 hour class, the important midsection will be forgotten. What we're trying to tell is, so many times when you plan a class, most of the information you try to do it in the first few minutes. And that might have been the must know. So if you repeated the important points at the end, he'll remember that, as she told, summarizing the core concepts. Therefore, always restrict the need to know information in the content of the lecture. There should be must know, nice to know. You know that, right?
Yes.
Must know, nice to know, desirable to know. So try to cover off the desirable to know, nice to know, and all that in between. And the must know, keep it for the end. So this is this happened in the corridor. A conversation between two students at tea break after 2 lecture hours in the morning. Okay, one student is telling, my goodness, my head is pounding. I don't understand one bit of what the teacher was talking. And he was going on and on and on and on and on. Yeah, and my eyes are aching, continuously looking at the lighted screen. Okay, so one student is telling, yeah, I had a severe headache, I don't even know what he was talking. And the second student says, yes, my eyes are aching, looking at that lighted screen. So what is the message you're getting out of it?
Maybe they are too much watching movie at the night and they're getting overstrained in the classroom.
Watching too much movie in the night. And so now they have eye strain. Anything else that you can think of?
And they were not involved.
They were not involved. Concentration is not there. Anything else that you can think of? You need to give a break for the eyes to recover. The student is talking about monotony. See, he says he went on and on and on and on. So how do you break monotony? See, so many times we can't discard the feedback also. We take feedback basically for some regulatory bodies. Very rarely we work on the feedback. So, this student is talking about monotony that is getting him to sleep. So, teachers have to have this monotony breakers, isn't it? That's the reason why they say don't stand in the podium, walk, change the media, then ask questions. The student is talking about monotony, no break in pace. The teacher did not check whether the student has understood or not. So he said, I did not understand one bit. So that means the teacher has not bothered in between to say, okay, tell me what it is, isn't it? So teacher has continued to do her job or his job. 2 hours of continuous PowerPoint slides show has tired their eyes. He says there, yeah, and my eyes are aching, continuously looking at the lighted screen. So too much of PowerPoint might not be a good thing. That might actually be causing strain, isn't it? So when student is not engaged, there might be a few points that you have to reflect and see what is it that we can do. Last scenario. It was a hematology class. A 50-minute talk illustrated by graphs, tables and photographs on OHP to second year and final year medical students. The students were asked to record their concentration on a questionnaire. The purpose of the study and the procedure was explained to the students. Results. Student concentration rose to a maximum at 10 to 15 minutes, then fell steadily till the end of the lecture. So it was I'm a physiology teacher. So it was a hematology class. So we show a lot of graphs and tables and bar charts and experiments. So what was seen that, and the students were asked to plot their concentration. So we teach them how to plot their concentration. And then when it was plotted, it was found that the concentration steadily increased till 10 to 15 minutes and then steadily decreased. So what is your normal class duration?
45.
1 minute. So 15 minutes, the graph goes like this and then slowly it reaches the end by the end of 15 minutes. So what does the results imply to you?
They will not be able to recollect what they like.
They won't be able to recollect, you think? Okay. So what does it imply to you all? Okay, they're bored because they have to get involved in understanding it. Okay. Student concentration does not last for more than 20 minutes. That's what it's trying to tell you. Attention span for a student is 20 minutes. How much of a Nobel-winning topic that you're talking about? Your student concentration span is only 20 minutes. So what? As a teacher, what message does it give you? What message does it give you? You must break your class, put in an activity, or maybe you should take this. I did one summary at the end of 15 minutes, right? A small summary, or a video clip. So you have to break your class into 3 sections. So many times what we do, we take attendance also, right? In between those 15 minutes. So one thing you need to understand is attention span is 20 minutes. Research has shown that they can't concentrate more than, and now though they say it's 8 minutes for the new generation. So I know every 8 minutes, what is it that you have to come up with? So that is it. So I think the next few, for lack of, we do not have time for these activities. So I will switch over to the next section. Yeah. So when I'm talking about levels of engagement, how much more time do I have? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Yeah, I'll try to wrap up in 10 minutes. So this is what your students, if you take your students, this is what they'll all fall under. Okay? You have some of them who are engaged, some of them who are rebellious, they'll just, whatever said and done, they will not even look eye to eye. So you have all sorts of students. Ritual compliance is, they sit there, they keep on nodding their head. Whatever you say, then you ask them a question, they can't even repeat the question. They keep telling them, what are you saying then? For so long, it is distracting. So, the study that we did, I showed you a few case studies, right? And those are the points that emerged out of the case studies. Passivity of students, very little learning occurred, monotony, the skills were not developed. So all these things can be countered with interactive teaching methods like this. In the next few sessions, we will tell you what are these activities that as teachers we can design so that those issues that were addressed in those case scenarios, in those case studies can be countered. So, yeah, we'll cover most of this. This, 3 minutes each way, the debate sort of thing, wherein you give a concept like say tuberculosis day. So today is tuberculosis day, Today is tuberculosis day. So suppose I want to say this is the standard treatment or this is the standard treatment. Then I say compliance. This is a major cause for non-compliance. Then I say 3 minutes, you talk about this reason. After 3 minutes, change over and talk about the other. Exactly opposite of what is spoke. So make them think. So for 3 minutes, they'll continuously talk about one and then change. So a lot of things you can do. Okay, a lot of things you can do. So how will you design the learning activity? Is again group activity that we will do later. How do we design learning activities wherein there is engagement of content, learning material, what you are presented, student to the content, student with the teacher. So it's always important to plan. You all make lesson plans?
Yes.
So in your lesson plans, it's always, instead of making 40 minutes lesson plan, it's always better to do it 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, 15 to 20 minutes, then activity and activity can't be some random activity. You can't make them play a game. That activity has to be aligned. Because we have to cover the syllabus, isn't it? That activity has to be aligned with what has been done so far. So you will have minimum 2 activities for every class. So I'm sure you are doing all this. You're familiar with all this? Just raise your hands. Sorry. You can say brainstorming, you all do. Buzz? Buzz, do you do? No. Think, pair, share? No. Crossword puzzles? Nowadays you'll be showing Lokesh. We will show you how you can do this crossword puzzles which the students would love doing. Jigsaw? Jigsaw is a very interesting form of small group activity. So what we do is like suppose this group and this group, right? So these are the home groups. These are the home groups. So I'll give you a topic on tuberculosis, for example. So I'll put headings. Cause of tuberculosis, features of tuberculosis, management of tuberculosis. And then what I do is, one student from here, one student from here, one student from here will go and in detail, like experts, they will learn about cause of tuberculosis. One will talk about clinical features of tuberculosis. One more will talk about management of tuberculosis. They are called expert groups. So from each of you, I will pick up expert groups. They will go into their small groups and discuss. After 20 minutes, they'll come back to their parent group, home group. And then they will share the information what they learned in their expert group. What is the advantage of this? No. No. So that A, B, C, right? A1, B1, C1 went and discussed about cause of tuberculosis. So A1, B1, C1 went back to the group and shared that expert information to your group. It's uniform information, isn't it? A1, B1, C1, whatever they discussed, we go back and spread the same information. A2, B2, C2, what did they do? Clinical features of tuberculosis, they discussed. So B2, now A2, B2, C2, when you say A1, B1, C1, they're all having uniform information and they're going and spreading in the groups. So in effect, you have covered the content uniformly across every student of the class. And who did it? The students themselves did it. This is a big group. What we do is, I take 6 to 8 students in each group. So I have a 50 small group tutorial batch. So we divide them into 6. So home group has A1 to A6, B1 to B6, C1 to C6, D1 to D6, E1 to E6 and F1 to F6. Then what do we do? All A1, B1, C1, D1, E1, F1 will take one topic. All 2s will take one topic. Then that's called expert group. Home group, expert group. After 20 minutes, they'll all go back to the home group, share information. So this is called jigsaw. In jigsaw puzzles, that's what you do, no? Pieces you take in. Lot of such activities. One is students are engaged and there's some activity going on. But teacher, another advantage is staff crunch you can maintain with this. I need one teacher for the entire class. One teacher is enough. So these are all interactive teaching methods that you can do. Team-based learning, how many of you do team-based learning? You've done team-based learning? Okay. So this is how you do it. So all these work in groups, okay? All these things encourage students to work in groups and participate in the learning. But as a teacher, it is you who design the application exercise and then see how the students come back and present. I will share all this with you. So the model that you would all like to do is, it should not be pour it in model. Pour it in is just open the cap and pour everything that you know. 2 hours you prepare for a class, half an hour you go and stuff it to the student. You took 2 hours to read and you want the poor student to understand in half an hour. Not possible, isn't it? So this keep it flowing model. Just here and there you push in ideas, ask them to think, ask them to reconnect. It's not easy, but still, this is the only thing that works. So ask yourself when you come out of the class, do I know that the students understood the lesson? We reflect, isn't it? We do reflect. All of us come out and say, did my students really understand my lesson? It's not enough if I stop there. What is the evidence? What is the evidence that he has understood or he has got the desired learning outcome? Last. Tomorrow, how can I do it better? So that intrinsic motivation should be in you. So even for the last 2 decades I have been in teaching, not even 2 decades, last 25 years I have been teaching. And so unless we have this, we can never be passionate when you enter a class. And when the teacher is passionate, only then the student really that passionate rubs in, that enthusiasm. So these are the 3 things you should ask eternally every time you come out of the class. Tomorrow, how will I do it better? So that my student becomes an authentic learner. So all this I'll pass off. I do not have much time. I was thinking like each point we will debate, but yes. This I would like to talk about because how do I engage? I don't know if you're all, how many small group teaching sessions you all conduct in your curriculum? 5 is it? So then you have these engaging activities, problem solving activities and assignments. Okay. So does the student know what is the activity he has to come prepared for? In advance, do you tell the student this is the activity that you will be engaging in?
No. At the end of the chapter,
okay.
we have problem with
Okay. So do you ask them to go deep rather than superficial? Yes. Okay. So you know that Miller's pyramid, right? So do you ensure that apply, analyze, evaluate, create those higher levels? What are the basic levels? Recall. Isn't it? Most of the time I ask something, student answers. There's only recall and I'm happy. But you should not end there. It is all about apply, analyze, evaluate and create. If there are master students, we cannot end at MP, whatever the PG students, you can't stop at recall. They have to apply, analyze, evaluate and create. They have to create, a piece of work, a research, a review piece based on whatever information that you give. And it has to be challenging. Every point, at every level, you have to offer challenging tasks. So, I always end telling it has to be authentic. Whatever we teach should make the learner authentic and it should be relevant to what he needs. It might be my core area of interest. For example, I am very much interested in cognition and neurophysiology. But my UG student, what he requires out of it is only hardly few. So that class I shouldn't just, I get excited sometimes. So the first I can cover 80% only on what might not be required for them. So it has to be relevant to what the student really needs. The hot question, no? How many of your questions are hot? It really burns the students' marks, but how many of them are really hot? What's your blueprint? 10 is it? Okay. Higher order thinking questions. like analysis, synthesis, evaluation. Teachers' role, how many of you agree that teacher has to reinvent? This is a very, not a good audience for me to be asking this question. So, how many of you think teachers need to reinvent themselves to engage students? And is it enough if you reinvent once? This is like avatars. You have to keep doing it time and again. So many times I can see a difference between pre-COVID students and post-COVID students. You also have noticed that? They are so challenging. Like there's so much, even dressing up and coming is a major problem for them. Yes, so imagine such kind of kids, you're asking them to sit like this for 2 hours, who has slept through with their legs on the stairs. And it's difficult, and they would never like, their doors would be shut, mother knocks the door and enters, and here teacher sees eye to eye. It's so much of privacy encroachment for them. So there's a lot of things that we have to do. So there's a lot of challenges. That we encounter, wherein we have to, yeah. If I try to engage too much, what is the challenge? Content can't be covered, right? If I try to keep engaging the students all along, 2 activities, 3 activities, 4 activities, what's the purpose? I would not cover the entire content that I'm supposed to. So that's the challenge. And am I confident? Is it enough? Now I said jigsaw. How many of you are confident to go back and do it? Am I confident? Have you been a single teacher engaging 50 students in a new technique? You have to be extremely confident. So you have to pilot it. You have to see the challenges. You have to overcome it. So techniques, how many of us are really, and they're all non-conventional. So maybe your HOD might look at you with, what are you doing? You can do any of this, okay? Pause, short summaries, thumbs up, thumbs down, like what I did, surveys, think, pair, share, brainstorming, whatever you want you can do. See, sky's the limit for engaging students. Some of them we will do in the next few sessions, so I won't go into this in detail. Is your lesson plan according to these, they align with this? Okay, then I will not go into detail with this. So, the first row there, the first point, behaviors that promote student engagement. Do you all agree with it, the first point, you three? Appropriate use of humor. Do you think there's a role for humor in learning? Yes. Appropriate. Okay, it has to be relevant. Second row there, do you think appreciating student performance is important for learning? Yes. Do you think it's necessary to engage them after 4 o'clock? Okay. Do you think it's important to ask their feelings and their viewpoints in the class?
No.
Why no? Yes.
No, that is not part of it.
It's not debatable things because yes, some of them feel. I mean,
No.
because there is some people feel there's no filter. Then like they can tell whatever they want. They don't even know what they have to do. But so I'm just asking. I'm just kindling. Is it all? Do you think it's important?
No.
Is it important following up on topics raised by students, even if it is not directly related? So many times have you seen in class? We'll come out with something which is not relevant. One student wants it. 49 students don't want it. So do you think you should follow up that particular topic?
Yes.
So, in a class, one thing we have to learn is, if we tell our class, this is what we are doing, there's a sense of partnership. So, do you think using terms like ours, we will do this, it really helps, isn't it? The collective contribution. Yeah, this I thought I'll tell you, but now you wrote, all of you, it's time for tea. So, there's something called muddy point. Okay, this is what muddy point is. If I ask you all to think in the last 40 minutes that I engaged you, what was one point that required clarification? Okay, take 10 seconds. Mentally think of that one particular point that we need some more clarification. Yes. One point that needs clarification in the last 40 minutes.
To make the students more attentive and
the hang of it. 1 point.
Role play.
Role play. Okay.
Now you told about the learning styles.
Huh.
If in a class there are 30 students, let us imagine there are 15 similar styles. How to adopt 15 styles in that classroom? It's
Okay.
difficult.
So this is how, now what I do is I will answer their points. Like say role play. Then I'll say, okay, if I have to show somebody how breaking bad news is, then I'll say, okay, you are the mother, I'm the doctor. So, and I'll make a stand here and I will start telling her about some bad news about what the child is having, grade 4 leukemia. So then I'll say step 1, step 2. Then I will tell the students, okay, what did I do first? I patted on the mother, I made her sit, I gave her a tissue to wipe her eyes, I ensured that there's nobody. So they will see what I'm doing and then they will reflect. These are the things that she did. That's role, all the learning styles. And we encourage students to develop other learning styles also. If you're an auditory learner, intermediate English, we will train them how to become visual learners, kinesthetic learners and so on. So why I did this exercise is not to clear your doubts. This is how you do at the end of the class. You ask students to note down one muddy point of the entire class that they need some clarity. And then talk about it. It's like reinforcement, isn't it? So this, we will stop here. And we will go and have our tea. And thank